Good evening. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. I need a different table. Make the incense offering together. The fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. The fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. The fragrance of this incense unites us with precepts, concentration, and insight. We offer it for all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha. In the spirit of universal fellowship and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech. humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. Metta prayer. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. So we're going to do a meditation now. I don't think we've done Tonglen in a long time, but I can't remember. I've done so many online meditations with so many different groups in the last few weeks. I'm not sure, but if we've done it recently, it won't hurt to do it again. So Tonglen is kind of like Metta Bhavana, which I know we've done recently, except that instead of cultivating goodwill, which is the desire, the wish that other beings be happy, you cultivate compassion, the wish that they be free from suffering. And as you know, this is a time when a lot of people are experiencing suffering. So it's a good time to work with compassion. So we'll do this. So just get into your usual meditation posture. Take several deep breaths. Just the way we always do, make sure your belly is nice and soft, everything relaxed so that your lungs can fill and empty completely. And then let your breath settle into a comfortable rhythm. Just breathe naturally. So for this one, most people find it beneficial to have your eyes closed. So I usually teach having your eyes closed during meditation anyway, but if you sometimes sit with your eyes open, you might want to close them for this. And also the best place to have your attention is at the center of your chest, much as with Metta Bhavana. And so staying aware of the breath, your attention at your heart. And we're going to start with goodwill. So may I be happy. May I be free from animosity. May I be free from stress and affliction. May I look after myself with ease. May all beings be happy. So Tonglen is a Tibetan interpretation of a meditation that's described in the Pali Canon. And the word means sending and receiving. And so what we're going to do is we're going to receive suffering. And we're going to send relief. So by receive, really we mean we're accepting. A lot of people, when you say take on the suffering of others, don't want to do that. We want to insulate ourselves from suffering. But the reality is that we experience our own, and we're recipients of the forms that the suffering of others takes. And we're recognizing that our oneness with others and the importance of our compassion and its ability to transform us and to transform our world. So to start, think for a moment about the kinds of suffering that we experience. So I don't like the word suffering. Dukkha is what it really is. But that includes a lot of different kinds of stress, dissatisfaction, pain, distress. So just allow for a moment your awareness of your own dukkha, of your own stress. We all experience the stress of birth and death, illness and old age. We all experience being apart from people and things and situations and circumstances that we love and like. And we all experience the stress and difficulty of being around people and situations and circumstances that we don't like. So take a moment to think of some of the things that you experience along those lines. And as you do, breathe them into your heart. So you can imagine them as a darkness or a smoke-like substance. Whatever works for you, visualize being able to take these into your heart and then transform them with compassion for yourself. So we're practicing in order to transcend suffering, and that's an act of self-compassion, isn't it? So breathing in loneliness maybe. Taking in that darkness and then sending out to ourselves the white light of companionship, community. Maybe taking on our anger and transforming it to friendship. So breathing in our suffering, transforming it with our compassion to liberation, happiness, freedom, comfort, whatever we need. And you can use the thought as you breathe out, sending yourself this light, this clarity. May I be free from suffering. So now think of someone that you'd like to help, if there is such a person. Someone you've seen that was going through a tough time. Someone you know maybe who's grieving. And allow your compassion for them to arise. And imagine that you can take on their suffering into your heart and transform it with your compassion into relief. So you're, in your mind, alleviating their suffering. Taking on their darkness and sending them the light with the words, the thought, may you be free from suffering. And now call to mind your loved one. And this should be someone, a parent, child, spouse, mentor who's shown you a lot of kindness, someone who's accepted you as you are. And let yourself be aware of what they mean to you. And like yourself and the person that you wanted to help, they experience difficulties. And illness, old age, separation from people and things they love, all those things. So imagine that you can breathe that in and with your compassion transform it. Taking on their loneliness, sending them friendship. Their grief, sending them comfort. Let's do the same thing with a friend. If you're a good friend, someone you like to spend time with, someone who's been helpful to you, maybe something like that. And be aware of what they mean to you. And begin to relieve their suffering by breathing it in, accepting it into your heart, transforming it with your compassion. So just as with Metta Bhavana, when we develop goodwill, we don't need to turn this into an exercise in how to do these things. You don't have to worry about whether or not they can be freed from suffering or whether you can physically do stuff or whatever. Simply developing our capacity to relate to the world with compassion. May they be free from suffering. And extend this to an acquaintance. And you may not know what they're going through now. You may not know if they're suffering or not. You may not know anything about them. But you know that, like yourself, your loved one and your friend, you're going to get old, you're going to get sick. And we're all in this same thing together right now. So you can be pretty sure what kind of experiences your acquaintance is having. So take that on into your heart, transform it. May they be free from suffering. And think of your adversary. And sometimes when somebody really is harmful toward us, or even if they just hold really views that we find really offensive and things like that, we can find ourselves sort of wishing that they would suffer. That's not healthy for us. It doesn't do them any harm either. Mostly harms our mind. It doesn't cost you anything to have compassion, even for difficult, unpleasant people. And in fact, it's a great strength. So send them that thought. May they be free from suffering. And finally, send this to all beings. May all beings be free from suffering. Take on the suffering of the cycle of birth and death, the cycle of illness and old age, so really this is what our practice is about. So this thing is compassionately practicing in order to help liberate all beings. May all beings be free from suffering. So to end this meditation, bring your attention just to your breath, tip of your nose or your belly. And stop the process of sending and receiving. You have that skill, you have that capability anytime you need it. Just be aware of yourself and your surroundings. And when the bell rings, take your time. When you're ready, leave meditation. Camera's positioned a little weirdly today, a little off center, but nothing I can do about it right now. So I wanted to tell you about the Buddha's birthday anniversary celebration or ceremony this year. So that's coming up. So for those of you who are relatively new to Buddhism or new to the way we practice, the Buddha's birthday, or actually birth, death, and enlightenment in some traditions, are all acknowledged on the same date. And in the Buddhist world, in the Asian countries that are predominantly Buddhist, they use different calendars. And so the date that the Buddha's birthday is acknowledged is going to be different times in different cultures. But the Vietnamese monastery celebrating Buddha's birthday basically next Saturday, May 9th, not this coming Saturday, next Saturday, May 9th. And so normally it's kind of a big deal. So the abbot at White Sands, Venerable Kai Tian, will come to White Sands at some point right around Buddha's birthday, and they'll have a big celebration. And they're having one, of course, at the monastery where he is in Dallas. But this year, because of COVID-19 and the pandemic and all of that, we can't assemble in large crowds and do this. And so White Sands has come up with an alternate way to have a ceremony. So I'm going to read you some of what Venerable Kai Tian wrote about this. He said, the immense turmoil and suffering caused by this virus has exposed human fragility and helplessness in the face of this invisible and mysterious danger. Even though we know that life of birth and death is impermanent, still we cannot help but feel a great sense of loss and grief when so many around us have become ill and fallen to this virus. With this backdrop of great suffering and grief, those who are in good health, able to maintain our practice and create positive energy and karma toward the path of enlightenment, are very fortunate. For this year's Buddha's birthday anniversary ceremony, we will not have the opportunity to practice together. However, in order to commemorate the birthday anniversary and to pray for those who have become ill or passed away from COVID-19, the monastery will hold a live stream event at the following dates and times. So the first one is like going on right now. Actually, it's probably finished by now. But in Texas at 6 o'clock their time, so 7 o'clock our time, they were doing what I'm going to kind of do, which is talking about how to use the Lotus Sutta as a way to basically to generate good karma and to prepare for the ceremony, which will be next Saturday. So I'll post a link on the Facebook page to where you can watch the live ceremony next week. So to participate in the Lotus Sutra ceremony, he says, you may choose a portion or the entirety of selected chapters of the Lotus Sutra. Chapter 25, which is the Universal Gate of Bodhisattva Kanzeon, Avalokiteshvara, Kuan Yin, Quan Am in Vietnamese, or chapter 16, the lifespan of the Tathagata, the Buddha. So here's what he says to do. Sit quietly in front of a statue of the Buddha and carefully and mindfully hand copy the words from the selected chapters from the Lotus Sutra. After you've completed hand copying the words from the Lotus Sutra, at the bottom of your document, add your Buddhist name. So if you have a Dharma name, put that on there. And any prayers or wishes that you'd like to make, and send them to the monastery in Texas so that they can burn it on Buddha's birthday. So this burning things as a way to make offerings is, you see that a lot in some Buddhist cultures. I don't know, I could give a whole Dharma talk about that, but it's a way to offer something to the Buddhas. So, so basically, copy a section of the sutra and then send it. So what you can do, if you do that fairly soon, you could send it to Texas, or he says you can scan or take pictures of your copy of the Lotus Sutra and send it to Thai, to the abbot. And if you want more, I'm going to post this on our Facebook page, and it's on White Sands' Facebook page already, but I'll put it up so you can access it. It may be possible to get it to me and for us to do the same thing at White Sands. I'm not sure exactly how that's working. It's hard to live stream from White Sands because there's not much cell phone signal, and the Wi-Fi doesn't reach very far outside of the monks' quarters. So I'm going to try to figure that out, but I'll put that up on our Facebook page. So these two chapters are kind of significant. So the Lotus Sutra is a big, old, thick book, and there's a lot in it. It's a very significant Mahayana scripture. There's a number of important teachings in it. One of which is the teaching on Buddha nature is seen in the Lotus Sutra. It's one of the first places that you see it. Chapter 25 is really all about the Bodhisattva of compassion, Quan Am, or for some reason he used the Japanese name, Kanzegan, which if you went to the retreat, the Soto Zen retreat we chanted to Kanzegan every morning. And it's beautiful, and I would probably choose that one if I were going to do this, and I will, but I'm not sure whether I'll do one chapter or both chapters or just a part. Any part of it will be meritorious. So if you look at it and go, oh my gosh, this is so long, I couldn't possibly do this, just do a part of it, and that will work. Chapter 16 is very interesting. It's the lifespan of the Tathagata. The Tathagata is a way to refer to the Buddha. It means the one thus come. We could do a whole Dharma talk about that sometimes, but it's really about how the Buddha was not 80 years. His lifespan was not 80 years, which is what the traditional explanation of the historical Buddha's life says, that he, at age 29, he left the palace. At age 35, he was enlightened. He taught for 45 years, and then he died at age 80. But it's saying that that's not the real lifespan of the Buddha. That's the lifespan of the human body of the Buddha. But that the Buddha is actually eternal. No beginning, no end. So there's a couple of passages in chapter 16 where this is explained, and the Buddha is talking, and he says, in order to save living beings, as an expedient means, I appear to enter nirvana, but in truth I do not pass into extinction. I am always here preaching the law. I am always here, but through my transcendental powers I make it so that living beings in their befuddlement do not see me even when close by. When I look at living beings, I see them drowned in a sea of suffering. Therefore, I do not show myself, causing them to thirst for me. But then when their minds are filled with yearning, at last I appear and I preach the law, the Dharma, for them. And so he uses a metaphor for this. There's a kind of an allegory about a father who uses similar expedient means to get his children to take medicine to recover from being poisoned. And he explains that some people will respond to instructions on how to eliminate patterns of thinking that keep bringing them back to the cycle of suffering. Other people will, in other words, most of the people who come to Buddhist services for the first time just want to deal with anxiety or anger management issues or depression or just sort of a general dissatisfaction with life or something like that. And they read something by the Dalai Lama or Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh or me or whatever. And they said, oh, Buddhism could probably help me with this day-to-day suffering that I'm experiencing. And indeed, it will, because the mechanism for dealing with suffering, for transcending suffering, is the same, whether you're talking about general unhappiness or whether you're talking about the cycle of coming and going. The mechanism for dealing with it is to change the way your mind interacts with the world. And then he says other people will want to realize emptiness and become bodhisattvas to liberate all beings. So realizing emptiness is taking that wisdom that enables you to transcend sort of plain old day-to-day suffering and extending it to the bigger picture, right? So that you see that all of this is ephemeral and that all of this really, that emptiness, again, there's a whole other Dharma talk in that. But when you realize emptiness, that is one of the marks of liberation in a sort of bigger, more spiritual, for lack of a better term, sense. And so some people are going to want to get to that. They're going to want to experience this awakening and become bodhisattvas to liberate all beings. So, we talked about that in the practice. One of the reasons that we develop compassion is not just to be friendlier people, although we get that, but it's really because of this transformative liberating power. And so we want to liberate all beings. And so for both of those groups of people, the Buddha is mortal in this conventional sense. And then he says, but others will understand that Buddha nature is essentially eternal. So for them, he reveals that he's always among us. So when we start talking about the eternality of the Buddha, this is going to freak some people out. I had this conversation today with a woman who, she was introduced to me a year and a half ago or so by a Stetson alumnus who's wanted to, long story short, he was on the Board of Trustees or something like that. He met me and asked me if I'd talk to her. And she's a seminary student, so she was studying other religions. And so I talked to her about something way back then, and then she wanted to talk to me about it again. And so we were talking about Buddhism and why I became a Buddhist and that sort of thing. And she said, so I understand that, that Buddhists don't believe in God, that it's not about God. I said, well, it depends on which Buddhist you talk to, right? So, because when you start talking about this idea of an eternal Buddha, then that starts to sound pretty theistic, I think. In fact, when you start to talk about the Bodhisattva ideal and the idea that someone like Avalokiteshvara could have lived eons ago and made a vow to become fully enlightened, and hears the cries of the world. That's what Avalokiteshvara means. The one who hears the world's sounds, hears our cries and responds to them. That starts to sound pretty theistic. It's a little different than maybe the way that the average theist sees God. I think there's theists who would see this much more the way Buddhists do, but basically, if you think about it, the Buddha, the human Buddha, Sakyamuni, who lived 2,600 years ago or so, awakened. He awakened to something. He awakened to an absolute reality. Well, in order to awaken to something, that something has to already be there, right? So the law, the Dharma that he awakened to already existed. So if you think about it that way, then Buddhahood existed before the Buddha, before the historical Buddha, right? So um, if you want to sort of delve into kind of the mystical underpinnings of this, which I don't encourage, but if you want to, you could look at things like the way the Christian mystic Thomas Merton would talk about. I don't know that he was a mystic. He was a Christian monk anyway. Thomas Merton would talk about God in terms of the ground of being, right? Not the bearded man in the clouds who's calling the shots, and judging people or things like that, but really the essence out of which everything emerges, right? And so when you think about the Buddhist concept of oneness, for example, and the interdependency where nothing is really separate from anything else, which is the realization of emptiness, right? Then you're getting to that idea of something that's eternal. So so you can kind of think about it that way, right? So the Dharma says that the Buddha has 3 bodies. And one of them, the Nirmanakaya, that was the incarnation of the Buddha, the Sakyamuni Buddha. And so this is a kind of an emanation or a created body which manifests in time and place, and that became the historical Buddha. That would be a way of looking at this. In order for that to exist, first there had to be the Dharmakaya, which is the Buddha nature. It's the nature of coming in. It's the nature of the world of absolute reality. And this is the truth body that embodies the very principle of enlightenment and doesn't know any limits or boundaries or space or time or anything like that. So this exists eternally. And there could be no historical Buddha without that. So the third body, by the way, is the Sambhogakaya, which when you start talking about Buddhas like Amitabha, who create a pure land that we can be reborn in and become purified, and that kind of thing, that's that body. And there are people, some of you possibly, who have talked to me about experiencing the presence of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And so that would be that. That's sort of the manifestation of bliss that arises as the embodiment of the Dharma in our own hearts and minds. So that's what that particular chapter is about. Chapter 25 is about the importance of compassion, and it talks about Avalokiteshvara. It's really beautiful. When I visit people in the hospital or people who are in hospice care, sometimes kind of beyond really having a conversation with, a lot of the time what I'll do is I'll read Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's translation of that to them. It's kind of repetitious, sort of sing-songy, so it's kind of poetic. And for some reason, even if they don't seem to be capable of understanding and having a conversation or anything, I can just kind of feel them responding. They'll seem to be comforted by that, and possibly even to feel the connection to where they're going from where they are. So I encourage you to do that. Like I said, I'll put in our Facebook group what to do with it once you've done your copying. Think of that as a mindfulness practice. Do it as a meditation. Really feel the words while you're writing them down. Let them affect your heart as you're doing that. And then we'll figure out what to do with them from then. So I'm going to look and see if any of you have asked me any questions. But before I do that, there's a question that has come up a few times in the last couple of weeks, which is where people have watched the broadcast, the live stream, and maybe they missed part of it, or they wanted to go back and look at part of it again, and they can't find it. So I had trouble with that myself recently, and so I fiddled with it till I figured it out. So let me tell you what to do if you want to look at this and you can't find it. When you go to the home page for the channel, you'll see, actually let me grab my tablet and I can look, make sure I'm telling you right. All right, I can't go to the home page because if I go to the home page, I'll lose the chat. But if you go to the home page, you'll see there's a strip there where the videos are, and there's little, it says videos, and it's and you know, other stuff, home and all of that. So you'll see the word uploads. It's right above, immediately above the line of video thumbnails. And if you click on uploads, and sometimes you have to click on it a couple of times, a little dialogue thing will pop up where you can choose uploads or live streams. So click live streams, and that will filter out everything that wasn't a live stream, and you'll find this one. So, Janet asks, can you recommend a good translation of the Lotus Sutra? Yes. So there's an online version of the one that I used when I gave the talks. If you go to the Nichiren library, so Nichiren Buddhism, that's Nichiren. That's a Japanese school of Buddhism. That Lotus Sutra is kind of all they do. There's a Nichiren library that has that translation in its entirety. I can't remember. I can't remember the author's name. I'm trying to see the bookshelf on my desk to see if it's sitting over there. I've got it in here somewhere, but I don't want to look for it now. If you can't find it, email me. I'll send you a link to it. But yeah, it's a good translation. Thich Nhat Hanh has a book on the Lotus Sutra that has, I think, almost complete translation. Not sure if it's got the whole translation or just parts that he wanted to talk about, but it's interesting too. If you read the translation and you want to know more, that's a good read. You're welcome, Dr. Michael. So I don't see any other questions, and it's almost 8 o'clock, so we'll do the dedication. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and offering flowers, candles, and incense, hearing the Dharma and training the mind. Great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to the 16 guardians and all protectors of the Dharma and their relations throughout space and time, to all ancestors of this Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. Let all karma be resolved and the mind flower bloom in eternal spring. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for the teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for all those suffering from violence and those who grieve for them, for those living in oppression, for all who are imprisoned who should be free, for all refugees from violence, hunger, and catastrophes, man-made or natural. We pray for the health and well-being of all those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, those working toward the healing of those afflictions, for those suffering from COVID-19 and those working to protect and treat them, and to those grieving for those lost to this pandemic. At this time, we have members of our congregations, friends, and loved ones suffering from cancer and other diseases, and who are grieving for lost loved ones. We pray for them and send loving thoughts their way. I personally know 6 or 8 people who are either sick or have lost loved ones or have been seriously ill because of COVID-19. And I don't feel comfortable saying people's names online. But I'm going to ask that we take just a moment of silence. If there's anyone that you know who's suffering from this, say their names out loud to yourself at home or think of them. May they be serene through all their troubles. May we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sadahantu avera sukha jivino katang punya phalang mahang sabe bhagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings that spring from the good we have done. So thank you. Look forward to seeing you Sunday or Thursday, tomorrow if you want to talk tomorrow. Whenever I see you, it will be good. Have a good night.